our producer, Anurag Kashyap.
Sorry for being late. I was just watching a movie and I couldn't get out of it. I had to finish it. That's what happens with cinephiles. So in your cinephiles, I hope you'll forgive me.
Good evening once again, everyone. We have a bunch of questions, and I think I'm going to start off with the context of Anurag and Dubai. Anurag has been here for a couple of days now. He was here for the screening of Kennedy that was co-presented between Saanjh and Cinemaki as part of the Mitzi Festival. And then we had the masterclass yesterday, and here we are today. The one thing that I see very common is that across the board, it was completely sold out. Everybody wants to come, and some of you are here for the third time, some of you are here for the second time. And my question to Anurag is, Anurag, why do you think these people connect to you and your story so deeply that they've kept coming back and back just for the hope of asking you one another question? What do you think it is about you that connects people?
I actually don't have an answer for that, but I have, over a period of time, I used to wonder the same thing. But I think over a period of time, I have understood that it has always come to me in form of a question. Generally, and people say that, how do you find courage to say things that you say? And I have realized that, and I've always said this, why do you need courage to just speak what's inside of you? And I think that's something that universally everyone feels. Because we censor ourselves, we tend to hold ourselves back because we are afraid of judgment and we sometimes judge ourselves and we are afraid of people forming opinions on us.
So, I don't know, your films have always given a lot of political messaging. You've said a lot of things through your cinema. Was there never a sense of fear that comes in?
No, the only fear is that I hope it translates with the right intention. Like, in the sense, there's actually no fear. And that also comes, everybody wants me and says that you don't have to do anything in the sense. There's a lot that I want to say, and in times that we live in, with a lot of censorship, a lot of the fear in the atmosphere, you have to find a way to say things, and finding to say things and hoping people catch it and reaches them, and sometimes it does reach them. So the idea that the intention comes across in the correct way. So that's where there's a tiny fear of creative fear of, like, am I doing it the right way? Is there a better way of doing it? And because what happens is, there are propaganda films, and if a film is saying totally opposite, it is also a different kind of a propaganda film. It's a inverse propaganda. And I don't want to do either. I don't want to impose how I see the world onto people. The idea is somehow clip all those things and try to just hold a mirror. Just create things as authentically as possible and do not manipulate it in a way to underline something and let people interpret it based on their own experience. So that's where the most energy goes.
And I know, in retrospect, you've been in the cinema for the last 3 decades or so. Is there any truth about yourself that took you time to accept about yourself? Anything that you've discovered about yourself? And
yeah, it took me a long time to accept that I'm okay. Because when I started out, I was making Hindi films and I was told what you're making is not cinema. In the sense, my first film was banned. Black Friday, people said, we don't know, it's a documentary or a drama. I don't know even if you can call it a film. And I use music. So there are songs in my film, but Bollywood, in Bombay, people said their films are not Hindi cinema. For a long time, I was dealing with the thing that I don't know where I belong. I don't belong to Hindi cinema, I don't belong to European art house, I don't belong to festival. Where do I belong? And then came a point when Danny Boyle saw, when he was researching for Slumdog Millionaire, he saw my films, and in an interview, he didn't say anything to me, but in an interview, he talked about the films that I was doing, and he used songs in his movies and won the Oscars. And after that, Venice put my two films, Devdi and Gulal, at the festival, and I was like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay. I can have songs. I can do what I want to do, and it's over a period of time, and like literally, it's like when Gangs of Wasseypur got accepted at the Cannes Film Festival, and really, I did not submit the film. I had not submitted the film because I needed to make a commercial film. I needed to make a hit commercial film, and I thought I was making a commercial film. By chance, the head of Venice Film Festival was passing through India, and he saw the long cut, and he just saw it. He didn't say anything to me, so I was like, commercial film, why would he say anything? And then we were in Berlin looking for money to produce Lunchbox. And that's when same Marco Muller from Venice, he walked up to me and he brought him an old gentleman with him and introduced me. He said, this is Eduardo, and I want you to show your long film to him. So I said, why? But that's a very commercial film. It's a film about gangsters and it has songs and it's very commercial. He said, no, but I just want you to show him the film. And I showed him the film, and he said, I love this film and I want to take it to Cannes. And we were like, oh, okay. Because at the time, studio also didn't believe in the film so much. And when the film started playing at Cannes, and we were supposed to go and introduce the film, and I introduced the film, after that, I was anxious, my heart was pumping. And I took my music director and some people out, and I said, today is the end of our career. 5 hours, nobody's going to stay, and we are going to be exposed by the end of it. We are there's a total imposter syndrome. And literally we sat outside the theater at a bar and we drank for 5 hours. We drank for 5 hours, knowing that after the end of the 5 hours, I am fully exposed as a posturer. My career is over. My life is over. And after 5 hours, we were called back in on the screen and theater, and everybody was there, and the applause didn't stop. And I was really drunk, and I don't know what questions were asked and what I answered. I had no idea. We went out of there, and the whole crew was dancing, and I was just standing numb, like I don't know what had happened. And next morning, the reviews came out, and the world had changed. And I think that's when I started to accept myself. I was like, just do what you want to do. It really doesn't matter. There's no definition of what's good, what's bad. Its only definition is you put yourself in your films, however way you look at it. So,
I know, talking about music in your films, we've seen a lot of interesting music come out of your films. How much of contribution in the music is yours? And how much do you believe music is important to continue the narrative or to enhance the narrative of the film?
see, my contribution is literally 1%. I think I heard cinema before I saw cinema. We used to have a radio at home, and we grew up listening to music and songs. I heard Sholay before I saw Sholay. So I'm used to songs and I love music. But I have zero talent to create music. Zero talent. But I also know that what doesn't work for me. So how I work on music is because one, I don't like suddenly actors start singing. I don't like that. It feels unreal to me. Second is, I don't like that this kind of a song is working. This first time in my new film that I got Arijit Singh to sing a Bhojpuri song. But twice before that, a typical Arijit Singh kind of a song. I said, no, let's not get Arijit Singh because he sings that kind of a song, even though he's such a great guy, filmmaker, singer, everything. Zero disrespect to him. So the thing was, I did not want, I never wanted, and I still don't want songs that are fillers, songs that follow a certain kind of a trend. I somehow crave for new sound, and I find somebody who wants to do, doesn't want to cater to the market, but is dying to do something new. And I realized that most of the film music directors, they're dying inside because the market makes them do the same thing again and again. It makes them repeat themselves. So they're also dying to do something, to explore, to expand. And that's why I get people to work with me. And I pick a person who has time. Because I don't know what music I want. But I know that I don't want the music that has been done before. So when you don't know what music you want, to find the right music, you need time. It comes from a lot of rejection. Not this, not this, not this. And then we finally come to I remember Black Friday with Indian Ocean. It took us 1 month to find just the sound of how the film has to sound. With a lot of people, it took longer. With Kennedy, it took us 6 months to find the first song and the kind of sound we wanted for the film. And it came from a lot of rejection. So the idea that the person is willing to explore, and I have to be honest to myself and listen to my intuition and say that, no, this is not it. This is not it. It's not just a filler. The song has to do the job of things I am unable to say. Song has to be part of the narrative. It has to propel the story forward. Song is literally like a scene. It should have a purpose. So keeping those things in mind, we go forward. But my only 1% contribution is sometimes I come up with keywords.
Like?
Like emotional attachar. just 2 words. I didn't do anything else. I just gave 2 words. I said I want a song on brass band. That's all I did. Rest everything is Amitabh Bhattacharya and Amit Trivedi. Like Juta fake leather, dil chicha leather. Those are just words that I come up with, which I know that it's like putting together something. Otherwise, no.
And I don't know, talking of, if you look at Bollywood, quintessentially they have the structure of the interval points.
I am very bad with that.
Tell us more about that.
Like, I think I have never got the interval right because I never make the film for the interval. So, if you take the interval away and you see my film as a whole, it will work more for you because what interval does is it breaks the film into first half and second half. So even my new film Nishanchi is one film for me, but they break it down because of the length, and then it becomes like people see the 2 things differently, which are they're meant to be seen as one. Like even like you saw Kennedy, it didn't have an interval point because we don't have an interval point. But when it will come to release, we'll have to put in an interval point that will be forced. And I know what will happen after the interval is forced. People will say, first half took its time, but second half was grand. But for me, it's like I'm creating an experience which is immersive. And I want you to get into it slowly. And once you get into it, everything works. But suddenly there's an interval and you come out of it. And then it takes time for you to get back into it. So it breaks the experience. So I've never been able to do an interval well.
I was speaking to Piyush Mishra-ji, and he was telling me that, this is one problem of Anurag, that, first half is always great, the second half kind of falters. Do you agree with that? Do you agree that your second half are not as good as your
but people also say some films like Ugly, second half is better, first half is not good. Or like Nishanchi, they say second part is superior to first part. For me, it's always one thing. That's why I'm saying that's the problem, because I don't work on a higher interval point and then start a story. So because I make the film and then we look for where to do the interval. And then that's the problem. So that's why I always ask my people, see my film as a whole. Take out the interval. Which is why my films work more on piracy and OTT.
Anurag, do you treat films the same way whether you've written them or you've written and directed them? So what's the difference between a script that is written by Anurag and directed by somebody else and a script that you write for yourself?
The script that I write for myself, there's absolutely zero censorship. And I write faster. The scripts I write for others, because the director is the captain of the ship, it takes more time. Because you're writing my first draft is always fast. And then when we keep changing and keep changing. So till it suits them, because many a time, like last time I was writing a script, I was writing it thinking I'm writing for myself with full freedom, and then everybody got scared. He says, "Sir, you can pull it off, we can't do it. We'll get into trouble." So then I have to tone it down. Then I have to shorten it. But I only write dialogues for others now. I don't write the screenplay, because then it's too much of a responsibility.
And do you write dialogues while you're writing the script, or it comes at a later point?
But while writing dialogues, I also alter, edit, do everything. But I write in a flow. Yeah.
Talking of writing, I remember in a podcast or in one of the interviews a couple of years ago, you said that you want to travel to a particular place to find inspiration to write. Is that still hold true?
I write in the sense, writing is it's a process in isolation. So sometimes you have to switch off your phone and go to a place if you're crowded to sit and write. But I write the most on my dining table. So sometimes I just completely lock myself in and everybody leaves me alone and I just write.
And this is a question that is asked to you a couple of times, but I'm going to ask you again now because things might have changed. How's your equation with money today as compared to a couple of years ago?
I'm better with money now. I'm better with money now in the sense I actually just wanted to make movies, and then you realize after a while that people give you only what you want, so they're only making me make movies. Nobody was giving me money. Then I started to ask for it and I found people who know how to handle it. So it's getting better. The relationship is getting better. We respect each other.
Anurag, I'm going to break the rhythm here. I'm going to throw in a few words to you. I want you to answer the first thing that comes to your mind. Censorship.
Shouldn't exist.
OTT algorithms.
Any kind of algorithm, I want to just kick it like a football.
PR machinery.
Pointless.
Karan Johar. Karan Johar.
He needs to go back to himself. He needs to stop impressing people.
Crossover cinema.
Huh?
Crossover cinema.
Crossover cinema is crossover only after it crosses over. But you can't make a crossover cinema thinking you're making a crossover cinema.
Malayalam cinema.
I love it. I love it. Very inspiring right now at the moment.
Gali Galoch. Gali Galoch.
It's expression. It's not really abusing. It's really an expression. It's what do you call that? There's a dialogue in my coming film. It's like an exclamation mark. It's a language of love.
Box office obsession.
Huh?
Box office obsession.
Box office obsession is a problem. It's a disease. But I think that box office is okay, but that obsession chasing it is a disease. It stops you from really creating anything.
Gangs of Wasseypur 3.
Never.
Remakes, because you've done
I've done one.
Any thoughts on remakes?
Remakes, when I'm old and sick, and I'll do remakes. Whenever I'm sick, I'm there. Remakes are like necessity sometimes. But I wouldn't want to remake a classic. I would like to remake a film that had a potential but was not done.
Any one film that you would love to remake?
There's a long time back, there's a film that I liked. I'm forgetting the name. It had Amitabh Bachchan in it. It was written by Salim Javed, directed by Ravi Tandon. It was called Majboor. Majboor. It didn't do very well, but I thought there's something great in that film, and I think that's the one film that I have felt like if I have to remake a film, I would like to remake Majboor.
Test screenings.
It's pointless because I do test screenings for filmmakers, but otherwise, everybody has their own. You can't please everyone. The first audience that I want to be happy with the film is me, myself. If I'm not happy with my film, then I can't make anyone happy.
And last one would be Bollywood.
Bollywood is just a trap. It's a trap. It's a massive trap. People should want to be a filmmakers or actors. Bollywood is limiting.
Anurag, people say a lot of a director's films are a reflection of his own life story. How much of your own experiences and childhood or parts of your life have come into your movies? And how important is that?
Some movies it does. Some portions of the films, not the whole film. The film as a whole, but the interpretation of a lot of characters, it comes from my own life experience or my knowledge of people that I know. The interpretation of characters does come from there.
But is it really important for a director to have a fulfilling life? Does he have to go through those, or he can just fictionalize it if he likes to?
No, it's not necessary. I don't know. It's not very important. The filmmakers who start making films very early, like I think Spielberg was 19 or 20 when he made Jaws. He had no experience of shark. So I'm saying it doesn't really matter. Like, filmmakers who make fantasy films, Guillermo del Toro, I don't think he has lived life like Frankenstein or this and that. But it's like, this is imagination. It's not very important, but yes, you take a lot from your childhood because it doesn't have to be experience. It is when you're most impressionable, which is until a certain point. The literature you read, the music you listen to, the cinema you watch, the experiences you have, they shape your idea of life. When you're most impressionable, when you're forgiving, when your ideas about cinema are not fully formed, there comes a point where you think, this is bad cinema and this is good cinema. That's when you stop evolving. I'm saying it's like, as long as you go in with a blank mind and you somehow enjoy everything. Something or the other makes you happy about it. You're more impressionable. And as long as you can keep yourself impressionable, as long as you stay like a child and you have the awe of the world or the screen or the music, or you find some kind of a genius in other people, I think you will continue. You'll thrive. When you become too judgmental, then it's a problem.
I know, do you find it more fulfilling to write a film or direct the film?
Both. I love writing and I love directing. I love sitting on the editing table. I love everything until the release of the film, until the promotion begins. Then I start hating everything. Then I hate promotions, and then after the release, I don't watch the
We definitely have a lot of film writers over here. The question is, when you hit a mental block, what do you do to kind of come out of it? And how often do you hit a mental block, if at all?
No, mental block is only when I stop. When I have a mental block, you just go shrug it off. And since you go for a walk, you go exercise, you go watch a film, you just stop right there. Stop thinking about it. You do something.
Nothing specific.
No.
Because people do complain a lot about the creative block.
Yeah, because they're obsessed with, and I say that mental block doesn't happen if you, say, for example, if you're writing, don't read what you write. The more you read, the more you'll be stuck. Because nobody ever likes their writing. It's the same thing. It's like, people look into the mirror and never like their hair or never like themselves and never like the clothes they're wearing. They have this thing. The more they see themselves and they try to decorate themselves and Same thing with writing. The more you read what you write without having finished it, you'll always think it's not good enough. So I always say that finish writing first and then read it. Because one thing that happens is you know that you have the ability to finish it. Most often people don't finish writing because they get stuck at one point. So finish writing first. It gives you confidence that you can finish it and then you can go back and rewrite and correct and do whatever. But always finish writing.
Anurag, we know that you are a big cinephile yourself. We've seen your home has this big, huge collection of DVDs. What is a bigger influence on your filmmaking? Is it the films you've watched or the society?
It is always the world we live in. It's the world we live in. It kind of becomes part of my films. And films I watch because it gives me courage. Not ideas, but courage in the sense that I see filmmakers, when I see filmmakers who have been filmmakers for a long time, like recent example I would say is when I saw No Other Choice by Park Chan-wook. He's senior to me, he's my peer, he's also a friend. And I remember when he made Joint Security Area and Old Boy, which is more than 25 years ago. And you're like, wow, what a filmmaker at a time when I didn't know him. And now that I know him and I go and see No Other Choice, and you're like, ah, this guy still has it, he can still do it. Or when you say PTA and you're a fan of his because you saw Hard Eight or Boogie Nights or whatever, and There Will Be Blood. And then suddenly you go and see one battle after another and you're like, oh my God, this guy can still reinvent himself after so many years. So that gives me courage and inspiration. Sometimes you see young filmmakers like Julia Ducournau went and made Raw. And I was like, wow. She's so fearless. And her fearlessness gives me courage. She's not there to please anybody. In Titan, she has this woman who's pregnant with a machine, with a car. And she gives birth to a machine. She's not thinking of whether the audience will get it or not. She's not thinking of anything. She's going out and doing things. David Lynch, he will go out and do what he wants to do, and the consequences are his. His films will not become a blockbuster, but he doesn't care about it. He will go out and do it. So I look up to filmmakers and films like that, and it gives me a lot of courage. It gives me a lot of courage.
Anurag, speaking of your, obviously everybody knows that Anurag now is also acting in Malayalam cinema and he's a big fan of the industries in the South. But among the South industries themselves, what's your opinion between the Telugu versus Tamil versus the Malayalam?
Telugu is extremely commercial. Telugu cinema is mostly about larger than life heroes and things like that, most of it. There are also some of the independent voices, but mostly they are very few. But it is about the bigness, and it's about literally like 4 to 5 film families who kind of control it. My favorite actor from Telugu would be, say, somebody like a Nani, or from the film families, somebody like an Allu Arjun, but most of them literally cater to the stardom. Tamil cinema is a mix of Telugu and Malayalam. It's like they all kind of films exist, but filmmakers are more important. Like Telugu stars are more important. Tamil filmmakers are given a very important space. And Malayalam, they give more importance to writing. They give more importance to writing, even the producers. The script comes first. And that's why Malayalam cinema is so good, because they invest in writing first. And then they don't care what they write, do the right casting, which is why if you see most of the actors, if you have a good script, you can make a film with any actor in Malayalam. You really don't need to wait for a Mohanlal or Mammootty to make a film. You don't need to wait for a Fahad Fazil to make a film. And the industry is so collaborative that Fahad Fazil doesn't always have to play the main lead. He'll do a supporting character in some other film. Or Tovino will produce a film. Those people, they support each other.
But given recently a lot of the Bollywood filmmakers have been reaching out to Telugu filmmakers and actors, and none of those films have worked, whether that's a YRF. Why do you think it's not working when Bollywood reaches out to Telugu cinema?
Because they're bad films. They're bad film. They don't know. They're just throwing, in a dark room, they're throwing arrows. It's like they really have no idea. They're repeating themselves. The films, literally, what the films don't. A star can open a film. A star can give you a first day opening, but after that, it has to be the film that has to work. But depending entirely on the star and the business of the film is like not going to make the film industry thrive or survive.
And how do we protect Malayalam cinema from Bollywood? Because Bollywood is going to reach out to Malayalam
No,
cinema eventually, paying the big money.
Every cinema has its own cycle. Every cinema has its own cycle. When a film makes a lot of money, right? Somewhere I start getting afraid because I feel that there is a decline that might set in. More often than not, it sets in. When Sairat made more than 100 crores, I told the director, this is the end of Marathi cinema because now everybody thinks 100 crore is reachable. They're going to try and make that film rather than making their own indigenous film. That's what happened and Marathi cinema died. Same thing happened with Telugu cinema. When Bahubali made that kind of a money and formula, KGF made that kind of a money, everybody started doing that. And if you look at it, Pushpa is better compared to Pushpa 2. Any kind of a film, the sequel that is made as an afterthought is never as good as the first part. And first part works organically, makes less money. Second part is not organic. It is based on anticipation, makes more money. And then the problem is when the third part comes, they spend more money and people now have won off it. So my fear with every cinema is that. And this year, there are between Manjumal Boys and Empuran and Loka, 3 films have made around 200 crores. So now Malayalam cinema, there might be people start thinking that 200 crores we can make. And the moment they start making the film, not what they want to make, but for that 200 crore, that's where the decline begins. So that's what I hope Malayalam cinema saves itself from. Because they're much more sensible people there. That's the most educated lot.
Are they aware of what went wrong with Bollywood? Do they keep a close eye on the lessons that Bollywood has given them?
Bollywood doesn't learn lessons. Bollywood follows formula. They are looking constantly for formula. And they're trapped in a formula. So that's what Bollywood will see. Everything to regrow needs to implode. So I think Bollywood has to hit rock bottom, implode, then it will grow again. It's a cycle. So every 15 years it happens. With every cinema. 15-20 years back, Malayalam cinema, the biggest star was Sheila. And that's the kind of film they were making. And then suddenly they started growing again. And there's a great period of Malayalam cinema which was in the 80s and 90s. But the 5 years between 2001 to 2007, they had a very bad period. There are few good films, but a lot of films were not really up to the mark. Then the re-emergence started. So everybody has to. Bollywood also go through it for next 2-3 years. These pan-India films will have to go away for good films to start coming.
I know. Obviously, I'm a cinephile as well. I've watched a lot of movies. A huge fan of Indian cinema. My question is, what is this term called creative differences? Because every time you see a film fall apart, the answer is we had creative differences. Can you elaborate on that?
And then the creative differences is a word often used by a person who's the non-creative person in the film, which is the producer. He wants to put in commercial element, and he says there were creative differences. The non-creative person uses the word creative differences, whereas the director fights for it. I'll say the recent example is the Telugu film that has released called The Girlfriend. It was made 2 years ago. It was between the producer and the director. There was an argument that was going on for 2 years. The producer saw it a certain way, director saw it a certain way. At the end of the day, after 2 years, the film released the way the director wanted it. The very point the producer was not agreeing with were the points where their audience was reacting the most strongly. And the producer gracefully accepted that he was wrong, and thank God he released it this way. So that's where the producer could have blocked the film and said there were creative differences and cut it out. But the director would not say creative differences.
I know, looking at your filmography, we have seen some actors that you've repeated more than once. Somebody like Nawazuddin Siddiqui, you've repeated him in more than one film. Rahul Bhatt is somebody you repeated. But there's some actors that you only worked with once. Is choosing an actor a creative decision, an impulsive decision, or something that you have in mind?
It is a creative decision plus a practical decision. Sometimes because I'm doing films and I need an actor who believes in me and my process. There are a lot of actors. It's a pool of actors who believe in me and my process. But the reason I don't work very often with them until they fit the role is otherwise I also have a fear of repeating myself. If I put Nawaz in everything, Nawaz will come for anything I will say. He believes in me so much. But then it becomes a very formulaic thing. Expectations from the audience also starts getting more. They're like Faisal Khan and Ganesh Gaitonde and after Raman Raghav. It has to be an up. If I make him play a simple role, the same audience that expects something together doesn't come out. It's like me and Amit Trivedi, we did Dev D, Man Marzi and Bombay Velvet. Audience expectation is, okay, these two are working together. There has to be something new. And we were doing something very simple in a film called Almost Pyar, and the audience was so disappointed. Amit Trivedi himself was disappointed with the reaction. And we were trying to do something very simple. But they didn't want that. So that's what happens. So it is based on both whether the character needs this actor and the actor trusts me. Like in Nishanchi, I needed Vinit Kumar Singh but for a smaller role. I had done a film with him in the main lead and then I wanted him for a smaller role. But he came, he trusts me, he came. So that's why it's just, there's no other reason. I have used Nawaz twice as a singer, once in Devdi and once in Mukkabad. Just he came, they will come. I don't want to be repetitive and I also want to work with fresh faces sometimes because fresh faces gives a freshness to the film.
I know if I was to place two people in front of you, one of them was an exceptional actor, but not a such good human being. Another one was an exceptional human being, but a decent actor. Eventually, who will you pick for a role? And how much does it matter that person has to be a good human being?
It's very important that a person has to be a good human being, I feel so. Like at least empathetic. In the sense, it's not, everybody is not like they become problematic. And the problem doesn't come from them not being bad human beings. It comes from them being insecure. So for me, it's very important that my actors are very secure people. It's very important that my actors trust the process, the team, and have faith. That's more important. And for me, an exceptional actor is not really the criteria. If the actor is 70% there, I'm happy. An exceptional actor sometimes gets very rigid. It happens very often. But it's very important the person that I'm working with is extremely intelligent and understands the process and understands that it's a film, it's the entire story. It is not about his performance alone.
I know, I'm interested to know the collaboration you had with Dharma Productions for Haji To Phasi. When two production companies, which are chalk and cheese in nature, when they come together, is there something that you really need to compromise on to make things happen, or did you actually have the creative freedom?
I don't get into that part of production because I only focus on creatives. I focus on creatives, and my focus is my director gets what they want. As long as my director is happy, then I'm happy. And Hasi to Fassi, my role was I was helping with the casting and I was helping with the dialogues. I was writing the dialogues of the film and I was helping in the post based on whenever the director needed me. I fight for the director with whether it's Phantom or Dharma, both production houses, for the independence, which I did for Urta Punjab. I went against Balaji and Phantom and picked up a fight with the censor board and government. And everybody told me not to, it's none of your business. And for me, it was my business, and I picked up a fight. So for me, the filmmaker in the film is more important than the egos of the production house.
Any film that you produced that you wish you also directed?
Udan. I think it's my favorite film. I produced it, I didn't direct it. And I'm the one who comes from that background. Motwani doesn't. So I just,
But do you think you would have made it a better film?
no. But I think I wrote my heart out in that film. And Vikram did that. And I wrote a song in that film, first and only time in my life, which Vikram Motwani cut it and threw it out. I don't think I would have made a better film than him. It's a classic.
I know of late we've seen a lot of OTT shows and movies being set in the Northeast, whether that's Delhi Crime 2, whether that's Patan Lok, or the recent season of Family Man. What are the dynamics from a filmmaker's perspective that people move to a certain region?
I think it's good. I think it's good. I think there has to be more exploration, and I think there has to be filmmakers from there telling the stories like Rima Das, like Kenny Basumatari, and there's a lot of other young filmmakers who are coming from that region, like Boong from Manipur, Lakshmi Priya. So I think, and there's a lot there. I'm saying forget the art house films. There's Northeast martial arts, which we have seen Ratan Thyam use in his plays. I'm saying there's so much history there, and that has not been explored at all. So there's a lot of potential in the unexplored territories.
But what's the difference between exploitation and opportunity? So when Bollywood goes to these places, does it typically go to give them more opportunities and jobs, or it can also be looked up as an exploitation where they kind of politicize the entire narrative of the region?
No, in the sense, I don't know, give opportunities. The problem is Northeast is worse off than Hindi belt because they have very few cinemas. So even if filmmakers come from Northeast and they make films, there are not enough audiences that will get to the cinemas to see it. The films have to be screened separately in small villages and places. Like I was talking to an Emirati filmmaker today, and he was talking about to make an Emirati film, there's not enough audience to recover the cost. So which is why an Emirati film has to find a market beyond Emirates for it to recover cost, for the industry to thrive. So that's why a lot of art house films are made, because they can find markets outside. There has to be somebody who has to have the courage, but it takes time. We have to build something to reach a place where Rajamouli got and made a Bahubali, which was a spectacle that found its audience worldwide. And then it reached. So I'm saying that kind of a thing from Northeast will wait to happen till a filmmaker reaches that point. Kenny Basumatari is a very good filmmaker. He made a film called Local Kung Fu in Assam and screened privately, which is a fantastic film, but you know it's a low budget comedy kind of a thing. And there's so much more that can happen. But he actually makes a living as an actor. He's the guy who plays all the Northeastern characters in films and Patan Lok and all those movies. So that's where it's, and Janu Barua used to make film with government support because their audiences is eventually are in Europe and abroad. That's how they recover cost. So those opportunities are few, and exploitation does happen because a large portion of the money, and the more exploitation happens in South cinema, where actors and people are very highly paid, where the assistants and daily wage workers are not paid so much. And actors and directors and this, like, some of the HODs are very highly paid. Like in Tamil, the costume department and things, they get paid like very low salaries. I've seen discrimination in one regional cinema where I was acting and I was sitting in the van and I was sent a tiffin for lunch, and I would had a variety of vegetable or meat or rice or roti and things like that, and I would be eating alone. One day I decided to step out and eat with the crew, and that's when I realized the rest of the crew was only served rice and rasam. And sitting in the van, I thought, and then I realized I was being treated like some kind of a landlord while everybody else was given rice and rasam. That's it. And that's when I took it up with the producer and I said, I am not shooting till this time. So that kind of exploitation does happen.
Anurag, talking of improvisation, we're all aware of the fact that you improvise a lot. But tell us about this concept of a bound script versus like a script that is fairly open. You don't do bound scripts, do you?
I always have a bound script.
It's a bound script.
I always have a bound script, but I improvise. I come from theatre, I cast actors, we do improvise, but we improvise within the boundaries. Sometimes improvisation gets out of hand and it works. And like in the chase in Gangs of Wasseypur 2 was totally improvised. It was not within the limits and we just went along with it rather than control it. Sometimes improvisation happens like that. Sometimes it's a good thing. I call it happenstance. Like there's a sequence in Gangs of Wasseypur which till date filmmakers ask me, how did you do it? And we didn't do it, it happened. There's no physics, there's no law of gravity. I don't think even Newton can explain how it happened. That end of part 1 where the rickshaw goes over the gun and the gun jumps. It just happened. I don't know, it was the slant of the road, what it was, the gun jumped. And since then, a lot of people have tried to do that, it never happened. The gun can't jump. So we kept that shot and we put a special effects, we put a flare and put a sound to it. It gives it a great ending to part 1. It makes it so good, but it can't happen. And there's a great story of, there's a film that was made in Hindi as Red Rose. The original was made in Tamil. Hindi was made with Rajesh Khanna, original. And there's a very important sequence where suddenly a cat came from somewhere and crossed in a way that made the sequence very creepy. When it was remade in Hindi, the directors for 3 days kept throwing the cat to create the same scene. It didn't happen. And the film bombed, and they thought the film bombed because the cat did not. He didn't get the cat shot. I think those good things happen. That gun jumped on its own. It was not in the script. We didn't think it would happen. It just happened. It happened only once, and we kept that shot. So those things happen. Like in my new film Nishanchi, there's a sequence where the character goes to the side of the river and screams in part 2. Right? That's what the scene was, which is done to death in many films. When he screamed, there's actually a man who screamed from the other side. It really busted his bubble. And I decided to keep it in the film. I immediately got an actor, sent him on the other side. I said, you do that. So those things happened. It was not some kind of a genius that came by thing. I think I was open to it and it happened and I was like, I said, let's do it. It's so interesting.
Anurag, of all the films you've made, which is the one that you really enjoyed making the most? And why?
Enjoyed making the most was, I don't know, I enjoyed making all the films. Some films were difficult. I can talk about what films were very difficult to make was Mukkabaz or that Almost Pyar, which was abandoned by the producers, so we had to make do with what we shot. I don't know, otherwise I've enjoyed making every film. I've really enjoyed making every film. like including Bombay Road. I enjoyed shooting that film. The problems happen post shooting, but I enjoy making films, and I learned the most about filmmaking while making Black Friday.
I know we're talking of OTT. Today, if you look at the cinema stats and cinema screens, there are lesser cinema screens today in India than there were before OTT.
Yeah, India has very few cinema screens.
So, do you think that OTT has been a blessing or a curse for India, given that the distributors and the exhibitors are now?
It's been both. It's been both. It was more of a blessing when it began, because a lot of cinema that we don't get to see on screen, we got to see. It was a blessing because of the opportunities it gives to a lot of actors who are not from the industry, who were really good at their craft and gave us a lot of stars. People like Jaideep Pehlawat, Nawazuddin, all this, Manoj Bajpayee, everybody got their due, and a lot of new young writers and directors came in. So it's also been a blessing. It's also a curse because now a lot of it is handled by people who only care about the algorithm and things, so they are repeating themselves. They don't want to innovate. And yes, the biggest problem is a lot of OTT platforms insist on putting their collaboration, they buy the films before and they put a film is coming on a platform and they put the platform name on the poster, and audience like, oh, this is going to come in 2 months on a platform. So they don't go to the cinema. I think they need to stop doing that. I think people should start enjoying films in cinema.
But at least the YouTube space is fairly democratic, right? So why aren't makers making for YouTube direct? Because YouTube does not give you any. YouTube would let you release the film. So why is
I
YouTube
don't know.
doesn't have-
Amir Khan was exploring YouTube as an option. It didn't work for him. See, the problem also with the Indian audience is they like things for free. They don't like to pay for anything. They don't like to pay for electricity, water. They don't like to pay for their TV. They don't like to pay for their things. They would rather watch it for free. So, which is why it's a kind of a problem. And YouTube, as long as the films are available free, you will see the views of the film that's available free is so much more higher than the films that are available to rent.
I know we know for a fact that you don't like ChatGPT and you don't believe in AI. You don't like the
I have never explored it also.
Right. But I mean,
Yeah,
there are creators who are using AI to enhance their movies in many ways. What do you have to say about that? Because in a way, it has helped a lot of creators produce content that needs.
It doesn't help a lot of creators. It helps a lot of dumb people. I think creators like to create. Creators like to create. It's like people who fancy themselves as creators. It helps them. It's literally like producers who think they're creating a Ramayana or a Mahabharata through AI. They're not creating anything. They're not creating anything. Creators will not accept AI or ChatGPT or anything like that. I like to write with my hand. I still don't type. And I'm not saying that do that, but I'm saying, like, look at the cost of the human cost of AI and ChatGPT. I always think about that. It's the amount of data centers that they're establishing in smaller town countries. Why don't you make a ChatGPT data center in the middle of Los Angeles or the middle of New York or the middle of these top cities? Why do you have to go to the villages and small towns and poor countries and exploit their resources? Why doesn't Bill Gates make a data center at his house? Use his own water, use his own resources, give it to ChatGPT. Something is, I totally am against the whole idea of it, AI and ChatGPT. And it's only going to implode. And I think in the market also, economically also, it's going to implode. It's not going to survive so long. It's like,
I don't know. Your daughter is a Gen Z. She's young and she recently got married. What did you learn about her? What did you learn about the Gen Z from her?
she's smarter than me. I've learned a lot of things from her. I've learned a lot of things from her. Plus, also sometimes worry a lot. But I also feel like my worry might be this similar to the worry my father had for me, just different times. But I've also learned a lot. They are very clear about things, the way they are and the way they want to do it, and the way they call out things, the way they. The most important thing that I've learned from her is how to set boundaries, because my generation does not know what boundaries were. My generation thought it was too impolite to say no. What we thought was we used to do out of respect was not out of respect, it was out of stupidity. So it's very important to do those things, which I'm learning.
And if you were to make a movie for Gen Z,
I
where would you
tried, I
start from?
failed. I don't, Gen Z will make a movie for Gen Z. It's like I still Imtiaz. Like my daughter and me, we went to see Tamasha. And I loved the film. And my daughter looked at me and says, "What is the point of making this film? Why can't the father and son just have a chat?" I said, "Go and tell Imtiaz." And she went and told Imtiaz that. And that's the Gen Z point of view. So I told Imtiaz, I said, "You made a film for us 20 years too late."
What's your relationship, particularly with this part of the world, in context of how can we now enable ourselves to produce directors and makers like yourselves?
I always say, you have to, before making a film, you have to build a culture. Before making a film, you have to build a culture. I think somewhere culturally, it has to open up. I see a lot of, well, most of the Asian societies, most of the Asia. I don't know about Japan, but from Russia to China to Southeast Asia to Middle East, everywhere, we are more conservative than the West. But I think somewhere that's something the young generation probably wants to fight that, right? Older generation wants to hold on to it. Some look at it as a value, some look at it as a restriction. Regardless of that, I feel if we start seeing at least films from the rest of the world, I'm saying every country, if India says, okay, fine, we are going to, we as India don't stand for this or that, I'm saying fine, but allow the other countries' films to come in, not the way they are. At least we'll know about them. Don't censor those. I'm saying culturally open up at least that much. If you're having film festivals for cinephiles and you're not censoring those films and you are exempting them for screening for the festival, might as well exempt them for public screening. That's how you build a culture.
Anurag, when I sit with my fellow Emiratis and the wider GCC nationals, one thing we do realize is that there's a lot of folklore in our culture. The Ali Baba, Aladdin.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of these, the Arabian Nights, it's written around this part of the world. And I just recently discovered that Laila Majnun
It's also from this.
is from this part of the world. It's
Yes,
a Middle East,
absolutely.
and they're the only real story. Everything else is fiction.
Yeah.
So Romeo and Juliet, Soni Maiwal, everything is a work of fiction. But Laila Majnun were two people, modern day Saudi Arabia,
Yeah.
in a city in Saudi Arabia. So I feel like there's so much that we have in our part of the world that needs to be told. And before other people come and tell it, I think somebody from our side should do it.
Arabian Nights, there's so many stories. I'm saying if you just do that much, it exists. It's so much. Somebody from Italy has made it. Miguel Gomes has made it. Sitting in Portugal. Why can't it be made locally? Disney has made Aladdin.
Yeah.
And all those things. I'm saying, why can't it be made locally?
And moving on to my last question, Anurag, if we ever get to see you make a film in Dubai, what kind of film would you want to make on this city? As much as you know about the city.
Well, first time I came here was 2002. And I've seen it grow. I think I would still like to make personal stories. Very personal stories. I'm saying when you tell personal stories, then the world seeps in. And I would like to listen to stories, people's stories here first, or experience it on a more personal level and make those films. Start small.
And we know how much you support smaller films as well, short films. So Anurag has this email where I think everybody can send in their stories. Do you mind if we can share it with the audience and maybe they can send you something?
I get so many stories, I'll be taking forever to read it. Yeah, but it's like the stories for AK at flipfilms.in.
Wonderful. And one last thing is, obviously a lot of people here are now struggling to make a film, maybe finding investors, getting it difficult to get from government approvals, trying to find it difficult to get maybe crew together. What's one message you'd like to give for budding filmmakers in Dubai?
I would say collaborate. Most of the industries, everything begins with collaboration. I know there's a lot of filmmakers who have a story to tell and they want to make films. So collaboration is always the thing, because not everything will get made simultaneously.
Talking of collaboration, I think that's the purpose that we actually introduced Saanjh as a community for people like yourselves to come together and hopefully exchange numbers and meet up. And that's what we want to do in the future as well. But on that note, thank you so much, Anurag, for your time.
Thank you.
We'll now open it to Q&A because I think a lot of people have a lot of questions. So we're going to pass on the mics. Who wants to go first?
So my question for you is, I'm a theater actor as well as a film actor. So as a director, how do you approach a theater actor for a film? Like, how do you direct a theater actor? Because characterization is very different when you're on stage versus when you're in a film. So what's the difference in the way you direct a theater actor for a film versus a film actor? And what difference do you see in the way they prepare for the character? So that's my question.
Yeah, since I've been both. I've been a theatre actor. I've done theatre for a long time. And I've been a failed film actor in the beginning of my career. And that taught me something, the theatre acting is the audience is sitting far away from you. And they can't really, you have to pull the audience towards yourself. It is the actor's medium, theatre. And your performance includes everything from your voice projection to your emotion to your body language. But film acting, the audience can be right sitting on your nose. The camera can come this close. Film acting is mostly about the eyes. The less body language, the less you do, stronger it is. The truth needs to be in your eyes. Very simple way of explaining it, which I did yesterday in the masterclass also, is when two people talk, when I am talking to you, I'm looking at your eyes. When you're listening to me, you're looking at my eyes. When we watch a film, we're looking at actor's eyes. You're not looking at what his hand is doing or something until there's a shot of the hand separately. So it is, in theatre acting, you have to first, cinema acting. Cinema is a director's medium. Theatre is an actor's medium. So only the director knows how your character is going to go, and you have to trust. Even if you're working with the bad director, you have no other choice but to trust. Right? You have to trust. And you have to stop thinking too much. Because when you're performing on stage, it's one take. You have to keep in mind your emotional graph. But on a film, it's a shot. You have to not think of what happened before or what's happening after. You have to be honest in that moment, in that shot. Because camera is such a sharp eye. If there's one moment, false moment in your eyes, the camera will catch it. You can't lie to a camera. So you can't pretend. You have to be emotionally focused, and this emotional focus has to be in your eyes. If it's not there in your eyes, it will not translate to camera. So most filmmakers will tell you that. If you listen to them, that it's all about the eyes. And whenever you're auditioning, when you are screen testing, try and be very real in your eyes. Do less with rest of yours. It's the eyes, is the focus of the eyes that will make the person pick you up.
Hi Anurag, my name is Armin Gregg. I'm maybe only the foreigner here sitting here. And my question is, would you take a chance to make a movie with a good idea, good story, with a foreigner actor in a leading part, but it's an Indian movie? The story is happening in India, lots of fun, lots of adventures, and it's a true story.
I would take a chance on anything that appeals to me. It doesn't matter. I don't restrict myself from.
Okay, and you don't afraid that the movie will not work or work?
No, none of my movies have worked.
Okay, then I will send some idea for the movie, so just have a look.
Sure.
I'm Anurag.
Right.
We briefly chatted at the Kennedy
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah.
So what I didn't mention that day is that I'm a filmmaker as well, and I'm currently writing my first feature, and it's an extension of a short film that I did, basically.
That's
However-
always the best way.
Yeah. So my question is, have you ever written multiple films?
Yeah, lots of times.
So how do you say I would navigate through changing hats, and because they're two very different genres and all that. So how would you say I would navigate through switching hats?
No, now when I write like one at a time. So I don't do two at a time. And earlier also, very rarely I did two at a time. But I write very fast. I write with my hands. I finish one and then move on to the other. It's not very difficult. There's no rocket science to it. It's like how you change clothes. You just switch ideas. You have to just try, because we create a fear in our head which is far bigger than it has to be before trying it. So I'm saying you just need to get over it. There's nothing that you can't do. Just do it.
I wanted to pick up on something you mentioned earlier about your stories reflecting the society that we live in and so on. And so my question's about, artistic freedom versus propaganda. And there's enough of both today where there's a lot of noise around, let's say, film like Animal versus the Kerala finds, Kashmir finds, etc., right? So, in your opinion, where does that line get drawn? And as a filmmaker or a writer, how do you sort of balance that responsibility between trying to communicate a message that you believe in personally versus something that could perhaps shape, beliefs?
It's a personal choice. See, I'm saying there's a propaganda film. A counter-propaganda film is also propaganda. Right? I'm saying anybody putting their opinion on someone is propaganda. So I believe in just honesty. I believe in authenticity. If you don't believe in it, don't watch it. But do watch what you believe in. If you want to develop a culture, then actually put money where your mouth is. So I feel it's a very individual thing. You are morally responsible for yourself. It's like what they say now. Everybody talks about cleaning the world. I'm saying clean your own backyard. If everybody starts cleaning their own backyard, the world will clean itself. Just take responsibility for yourself. That's all.
Nice to meet you, Anurag, sir. My question is actually quite similar to the last question that was asked to you, but it's more from a standpoint of writing. I'm a firm believer that films need to be a window to the world we live in. And I know a lot of your films have a very strong sort of social commentary. There's some sort of political undertone that you do, and this is something that you answered earlier as well, is that it's all about intention. It's all about, so how do you kind of, in your writing process, how do you kind of filter out, like, how do you know whether you're being honest or if you're being too overly self-indulgent in what you're trying to say? Like, I think as a writer, that's something that I feel like I struggle with also.
But I don't think so. You can just figure that out by yourself. You have to have very good friends, very honest friends. I made Kennedy. I had a 3-hour, 20-minute cut. I showed it to my friends. My friends wrote me long mails. Somebody, Varun Grover, Vasan Bala, they told me that, you know what, the film is fine, just take out your Twitter from it. And Varun Grover wrote me a very long mail. It's a mail that I often read out to people. It's a long one. If you'll have patience, I can read it out. Would want to?
Yeah, sure, please.
So Varun Grover wrote me a very long mail after seeing the first cut of Kennedy. I get emotional when I read this mail, so forgive me if I get emotional. This is Varun Grover writing to me, and he says, "Hello. It's a difficult email to write, but it has to be written for exactly that reason. Reason being, I love you. I owe my strength as a writer to the faith you showed in me, and for always speaking up for the right thing without thinking of consequences. We all know how much you have suffered because of your need to stand with the truth, and you have taken all of it with a smile. But of course, it has definitely resulted in lots of stress for you, which is quite visible in the series of physical and mental health issues you have dealt with in last 2-3 years. It is in this background that I want to write to you to share an honest feedback of your current and ongoing creative phase in life. This phase of filmmaking, like all previous phases, I guess is closely reflective of your anxieties in daily life. Your stories are trying to be more and more openly political, openly cynical. The nihilism of Panch or the bleak hopefulness of Black Friday and Devdi, or just for the heck of it, fun study of bunch of losers of Gangs of Wasseypur, is now replaced by trauma of Gangor connection, utter melancholia and bitterness of Kennedy. But for me, the more alarming and slightly depressing part is that your voice is missing the clarity it had just a few years ago. The scripts are coming out disjointed. At some places, there are clear signs of you trying to fit in, which we all do as the world gets more and more younger while we get older. And your reluctance to listen to feedback from people around you is making things further difficult. आप प्लीज ऐसा मत समझना कि आई एम सेइंग ऑल दिस फ्रॉम अ प्लेस ऑफ एरोगेंस or wanting to interfere in your creative process. I would like to believe that's not even my top concern. Films are so difficult to make and they can turn good or bad by a host of factors, most of them out of our control. My main concern is that you are not able to see the disjointedness in your work and are surrounded by people too much in awe of you to say anything contradictory. I know you showed us the long lineup yesterday, but at the same time, you also believe that most of it, if not all of it, is good enough to be submitted and has value. So, to reiterate, my main concern is the slight disconnect with self-critique, which I feel is the most important tool of any creative person. And I feel at the core of it is a series of mental health issues in the last few years. The horrible world, how it has crashed on all of us since the pandemic, the constant self-doubt given by the army of trolls, the government breathing down our necks, and the already difficult profession of filmmaking becoming almost an anti-national activity, it has surely taken a toll on all of us. And I know your coping style has always been to get back to work, ASAP. Drown yourself in the mad energy of a film set, but I feel I'm not a therapist and still I will give you this advice. You probably need to slow down instead of rushing in. Maybe take a break, spend some time writing, reading, watching, eating, swimming, etc. If and when you have time and inclination, I would love to come and sit and listen to you. If this email has made you angry, please call and shout at me. I just feel you are going through a lot and not realizing it, and showing in the disjointedness of one thing you love unconditionally, which is cinema. So sorry if this email is shocking and hurtful. The only intention is to tell you that I love you and I'm always there to help if and when you need, as a prodigy, as a friend.
Hi, sir. I'm Arman, and it's been a pleasure interacting with you over the course of the weekend and hearing your thoughts about life and movies. And thank you, Badr and Saanjh, for making this happen. My question was going to be, why is it that when you were going through a low phase in life, you still chose to make Kennedy? But now, my question after you reading the letter is, why do you go back to work even when at that time you should maybe make time for yourself? The same thing that Varun was asking you, you know? Why is it that you indulge yourself in work so much at your lowest point in life?
I love writing and I also treat it like exorcism. So for me, making a film is not just making a film, sometimes it's exorcism. And one film takes me out of it. I don't work with as much frequency I used to do earlier. I did slow down. But I never took a break. So there was a point when I was shooting Raman Raghav, when I went to shoot Mukkabaz, I came back and shot Love Stories and Sacred Games Season 1. I finished that in 10 days. I was shooting Manmarzia. I finished that. I got back to Season 2 Sacred Games. I went to Ghost Stories. I never used to pause. Now I finish a film, then I relax, I will go do some acting. I just sit at home, do nothing sometimes. I look forward to that. So, but yeah, when all the films that I have made in last 2 years are my old scripts. One that existed, that was written by Sudeep Sharma back in 2019, and Nishanchi was written back in 2016. So there's nothing new that I have gotten into. I had to finish those things, still long pending. I have been working on my health a lot. I had ballooned up so much. I've lost weight. I am taking that break. But yeah, filmmaking helps me. But also the filmmaking is, I got off Twitter. I am making those changes. I know I've finally come to a point where I'm like, I can't change the world. I can't change my own parents. I can't change my own household. How will I change the world? So my thing is, when that realization comes in and sets in, you're like, यार पहले अपना घर बदल लो फिर दुनिया बदल लो.
Hi Anurag sir, I passed on the mic because I asked you questions yesterday, but then it was too tempting to not ask you one today. So I want to ask you, like you were talking earlier, as a cinematic genius, I've seen a lot of filmmakers also fall victim to their own genius, where they kind of just give into their creativity so much that it actually becomes, it kind of overwhelms everything, even their thinking process. How do you keep that so straight so as not to fall prey to it?
No, I wouldn't say genius, but yeah, they play into their own perception and image. But the thing is, we all do sometimes fall prey to it. But some time back, I started doing, I do a lot of things. I empower other people in the sense like I have my collaborators who I empower so much that they decide the schedule. I stop going on a recce because I'll go to familiar places, they'll find me new places. I got to a point of understanding. Earlier I would do everything by myself. I would not trust anyone. Then I got to a point where I realized that there's not a single person given a chance doesn't want to do their best. It's just that we don't allow people to do their best because we underestimate them. Or we think they're not intelligent enough, or we think they're not sharp enough, or whatever you might think of that. So I spend a lot of energy in finding my collaborators. Once I find them and once I trust them, they're their own bosses.
Hello sir, my name is Hamza. This question is more from a producer's point of view. I'm producing an Arabic production here next year hopefully. And coming from an independent mindset as a producer from my country in Pakistan, somehow we used to make things happen because of this word called jugaad, which I was recently discussing. We used to do it and make things happen. Currently, when I'm putting this project together and I'm working with a crew here, but I've figured out the understanding and the frameworks of producing an independent production is still missing. So for me, it's a huge struggle to make them understand like how you merge department, overlap department, make it into one when you don't have like a specific budget, and how you do more in less. So what advice would you like to give for a producer like me who's trying to do this, but the framework doesn't exist in this region, in this part?
It won't. The jugaad never stops. The jugaad never stops. That framework to suit you will never exist. The thing is, filmmaking is a very strange thing. It's like everybody say, there's so many actors, but there's one role. No actor wants the other actor to get that role. There's so many resources, so many filmmakers, but there's only one resource. Everybody wants that. So there has to be jugaad. You can't complain. There has to be jugaad. You have to do it. One greatest lesson that I learned in my life: your dream, you owe it to yourself. Nobody in the world owes your dream to you. So you have to do or die.
Anurag, my question is that there's an independent scene in India of films that are happening. Not the ones that rely on co-productions from foreign countries, but the ones that are just made locally, like maybe Rima does the way she made her first film. Are you aware of a parallel industry that exists that doesn't rely on funds from outside, just making its own cinema, releasing, finding distribution locally? Is there something like that, or?
They do, in the sense, see, somebody has to do the legwork. I can give you the example of a recent Gujarati film, which my producer told me. I don't remember the name of the film. You can probably Google it. It's running right now. It released and nobody went to see it. The producer pulled out the film from cinema and he started traveling with the film to villages across Gujarat. He would set up a screen, show the film. He hyped it so much by doing 10 to 12, 15 screenings that audience started going to cinemas and started asking for that film. And then he re-released that film. And that film is now close to 100 crores business. But Reema Das will show it across and she uses her own resources. She's her own cameraman, own director, own editor. And she uses people from her village. A lot of films in Kannada, there is Senna Hegde. He shot the entire film in his own village using his village people. Even Kantara was shot in Kundapur and every single extra was from Kundapur. He shot in every single house and everybody contributed to the film. So there are ways of doing that. And though Kantara became a blockbuster and super hit, it's one-off kind of a case. But if you go out and screen movies and collect whatever money and if you use everything that is within it, like when I was making my first film, short film, I used everyone, come for free. I had to organize a camera. I went to a person who was in charge of whose job was to keep the camera safe, the only digital camera available at that time, Channel V. His job was to keep the camera safe. I cast him in the film because I know deep down everybody wants to act. I said, I'll give you the role if you get the camera in the night after your job is shut down. He would smuggle the camera and we shot in the night. And the only thing I knew about the digital camera at that time, because in 1999, somebody told me the digital camera, you don't need lights. So I said, oh, I save money on lights. I got him to smuggle the camera out there. We shot with the camera would be back in the place in this MTV office in the morning. And I shot in 4 days, my short film. That's jugaad. And then we would do those things. So you have to get down to the basics. And slowly you gain your audience.
I'm Sunay Shamsi. I remember one of your talks when you were making Gulal. And you had to shoot at night because of the lighting limitations.
Yeah.
And you had to do it every year in Diwali specifically. Yes. That is shared madness and that's how action films are made. So we all are very inspired by you, all the film scene in Pakistan. You know it very well. So for me, I'm making a film since 4 years. And I only owe it to myself, nobody else in the world. I'm very clear about that. But it is, at times it gets very difficult to actually keep up with things. I mean, my producer wants the film to be done as soon as possible. It's a feature documentary, but I'm saying I need 3 more years. And it's only, people say it's being very, very radical about it, but I want the arc. I'm making my first feature film and everybody else in my world is killing it in the commercial world, all my friends. And it's very hard keeping up with things. So I want to ask you, how do you keep up with things when you are actually a filmmaker, you see what's happening around you? You're a human as well. So how do you keep up with those things? Especially I remember Gulal and films like Black Friday. It's really tough making them. As a person, how do you keep up?
See, when I was doing Gulal and all those films, I was very young. So I had enough energy to keep up with everything. I was just keep writing for others. So many films got shelved that people don't even know about. I would write the next film. जब भी थोड़ा सा टाइम मिलता था हम लोग जाके गुलाल 10 दिन शूट करा देते. My worst time was reset. Like उन्होंने जो बोला, post मनमर्जियाँ and sacred games was my worst time emotionally. Actually started with a lot of when I started protesting about the government and they started troubling my films and me, and I fell sick and I imploded. That was the worst time because at that time did not even have the energy to fight back. I had to fix myself first. And I don't suggest my coping mechanism to anyone. I was just drinking. I didn't know how to deal with the world. I felt very isolated as a king till I crawled my way back with the help of friends. My friends didn't leave me alone. My partner didn't leave me alone. She just kept showing up. My producer, Ranjan Singh, didn't leave me alone. They kept showing up. They kept pushing me to come out of it. I had to admit to myself that I was falling apart, and I went to rehab, I went to fix myself. I had to make a choice. What is more important to me? My health, my life, my family, my cinema, or fighting the government? I stopped fighting the government. If I have to say something, I'll say through my work. I'll say it in a way which will resonate maybe years later. It doesn't have to. I prioritize myself, I prioritize films, I prioritize my daughter, my own people. And I was like, I have to live with them, for them, with them first. And Nishanchi became a beautiful experience to shoot. Everybody was very happy because to see me happy. And even after that, it's like the whole unit came back together. Which my partner's greatest statement was, you know what, regardless of the fate of the film, on the box office, you all guys found yourself back again. It took us 5 years of going through a lot. So there's nothing in the sense, and we didn't know when every Diwali we went to shoot Gulal for 10 days. We didn't know if we'll ever be able to finish it. And it was not every Diwali. Whichever Diwali we had resources to travel to Jaipur by train. So it was probably alternate Diwalis or whatever, but it was during Diwalis. So the thing is, we started Gulal in 2001 as a futuristic film. It came out in 2009. It took 9 years. And by that time it stopped being futuristic because everything that was in the film had happened. So it was no longer a film that was trying to project a future. It became a contemporary film. But it took us 9 years. And the people who take longer, so don't worry about that. That fight will go on. Work on it till you think you've got your film. And let the world become more successful. I have a lot of contemporaries, not just contemporaries, my students, my assistants who are far more successful than I am. There's a filmmaker, when I was in the jury, I fought to give him the award. And this is as recent as 2013. I was the jury of Sundance. And we fought to give the award to a filmmaker for his film. And after winning the award, the filmmaker and the actor had a drink with us and celebrated with us, and it was like, thank you so much, and now we feel we can make a film. Today that filmmaker and that actor, they're huge. In 12 years in Hollywood. If I start saying that मेरी वजह से तो उनका award मिला है और मैं कहाँ रह गया वो कहाँ पहुँच गए, तो I'm the stupid one because they live in a different world. They are in Hollywood. That actor was Michael Jordan, and the filmmakers were Ryan Coogler. So it is, you know, उसकी जर्नी है अपनी दुनिया में. There's a lot of contemporary filmmakers who are making huge films in Hollywood, but we used to struggle back together in 2007, 2008, 2009. We used to struggle together. They are making massive ass films now. But मैं इंडिया में हूँ. My reality is mine. Their reality is theirs. So the thing is, I will not compare myself with them. I'm stupid to compare myself with them. Back in India, if I compare myself with, say, South ka Atlee or Lokesh or Rajamouli, they're making so much money. I'm so much more senior than them. I made my choices to make my kind of films. They make films that makes money, that brings box office. Obviously, they deserve more money. They have a much wider audience. So stop comparing. Stop looking at your contemporaries are going ahead of you. They're doing so many things. You have chosen to do what you want to do. It is yours. See it through. जो मिलेगा उसी से मिलेगा.
Thank you so much, Anurag. That brings us to the end of the session. We'd like to thank each one of you. But this is the end of the session. Thank you so much for your time. Hope you had a good time.